Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and in today's video, sponsored by the makers of Rise of Kingdoms, I want to talk a little bit about how CY works. And although I didn't request an unlock of CY from my kingdom because I'm not an archer player, nor do I plan to move all in on the healing formation, someone is going to need to do that. We're going to need to test it because I think it's going to be broken. And hopefully I'll have a test organized on the channel soon for Open Field, for Rally Garrison. Hopefully someone gets that organized and I can participate. I don't have the time to go make that happen. Lot going on. So there was unfortunately no test last night when he dropped in game, but this morning I followed up with some of our archer players. I said, hey, can you send me a few reports so I can understand a couple interactions? First of all, CY's got the defense tree and he's got this skill, okay, that says for the next 10 seconds, whenever this commander heals a target, they also deal 80% of their heal strength as true damage to up to 5 enemy troops. I just wanted to see if this would trigger from things beyond just his skills, but also his talents. And it's kind of funny because when we use Shajar and we tested with this, if the primary commander had that defense tree, I'll show it to you in a second, that has healing, it did not trigger her true damage. And if you're starting to be like, whoa, Chisgule, I'm having a hard time following everything you're saying. Yes, that's because these things are very complicated, and that's why I'm making a video to explain the interactions. So here is the defense tree. There is a talent called Medicinal Supplies. This talent is 300 healing factor, all right? Now, my theory would have been that this commander over here, when he uses his active skill, it is going to do a couple things. First of all, it's going to do true damage in the first skill cycle, which we learned in my prior video about Shajar. Second of all, that his talents would trigger AOE damage as well, which would be kind of disgusting. So all that to say, let's just go in the logs and let me show you exactly how it works, because good news, I think that this commander looks pretty damn good, all right? So here I'm going to pick, I think it was this report. It was just so easy to see. They use CY primary and Shajar secondary, and we look at their skills here. He's just 4-1-1-1. That's fine. He doesn't need to be expertise. She's 4-1-1-1. That's fine. The skills are unlocked so we can see the interactions, all right? Now, keep in mind, Shajar has another skill here. It is a third skill, Dew of Devotion, that heals herself and 2 other marches periodically with the active skill cycle. So this we'll see in the log as well in just a minute. But the way that this works is we see this active skill, and the active skill name from CY is Ever Faithful. And if I scroll on down, Ever Faithful heals. Awesome. Good. We expected that. CY gained the Ever Faithful damage effect, takes effect this turn. Now, I covered this in my Shajar video. Her buff works the same way, but the buff's on pretty much every other commander in the game. When you buff yourself, it applies on the next turn. But this is relevant. So because Ever Faithful healed himself, and because the true damage effect applies this turn, you'll see Ever Faithful damage was dealt. But it triggered twice. So what happened? You can see here that Medicinal Supplies was triggered. That's the talent I was telling you about. And there is the second true damage coming from Medicinal Supplies. Now, Shajar also did Dew of Devotion. As I described, it's that third skill. It triggers when active skills are used, and it does a healing factor to herself and 2 others. But because she has not used her active skill yet, it does not trigger the Ever Faithful damage, okay? So the short version of the story is that CY gives himself this buff, and whenever CY specifically heals, including from his talents, he will do AOE damage, right? But Shajar works the same way. Even though she initiated this heal and the CY damage buff is active, nope. It's not a heal initiated by CY. This is a heal initiated by Shajar. Whew, complicated. So they each only do damage from healing that they themselves initiate. And I can show you as we go a little bit further on turn 12. Shajar uses her active skill, the Tree of Life. Now, Tree of Life triggered, and because it was an active skill, that triggered Medicinal Supplies again. So if you're looking at this going, wait, so every skill cycle, you get 600 healing factor. That's 300 factor from the primary, 300 factor from the secondary. Yes. And it did trigger the damage from CY. So the heal from Shajar only triggered the damage from Shajar. Tree of Life healing resulted in Tree of Life damage. It did not also trigger the AOE from CY. I had kind of hoped that interaction might be there, but that would have been insane. But the talent medicinal supply did happen, as it always does, with the active skill of the primary and the active skill of the secondary, and that triggered the AOE damage. So the talent in the defense tree that gives you the 300 healing factor represents 600 healing factor per skill cycle in total, which converts into AOE damage. It's AOE true damage, which is really, really good. All right. Now, when we get to the second skill cycle, it's pretty much the same, but there is one noteworthy difference. You can see here that we, on our primary commander, CY, are going to do our healing effect. Okay. We buff ourselves. We do medicinal supplies. And remember, Shajar's third skill is going to also do a heal. But this time around, Shajar has her true damage buff active. Okay, so this is interesting. So the main heal from CY is represented in this 644 number, and the medicinal supplies heal is represented in the second number. So that all checks out. And Shajar's Dew of Devotion triggered her Tree of Life true damage right over here. And the significance of that is that each of these damage sources here is true damage. Now, these numbers look small because I asked Leroy to use a small number of troops to hit this barb. But the magic of true damage is that in a full gear test, you're going to ignore the defense, you're going to ignore the health. So when we inevitably do some dual testing, which I look forward to doing, I think this is going to be very powerful. Now, for Garrison, I think this is going to be especially powerful. But many of you watch this video and you're like, Chisgule, like, I'm here for my ROK fix. I get that you're like interested in the nerdy mechanics of how all this stuff works, but will this work in the open field? And I think the biggest detractor from using CY in the open field is ultimately the fact that yes, he is healing, but I would say even with AoE damage attached to that heal, he's an archer. And the weirdness of archers right now is that they often get focused. And I think Chadsky's got a much stronger perspective on this than I do. But what I'll say is that he's sure right, and the higher tier of kingdom you're in, the more true it is that in dot mode, people are seeking out these archers. So I think that although CY and SAD will be good in the field, they are archers, they will be slow, and people will hunt them down, and all that healing is going to result in potentially taking a lot of Sev wounds. Now, in terms of his kit overall, obviously, the healing and doing true damage is awesome. Second skill, defense and march speed is good. And also you get normal damage. That's a W. You take less normal damage, but here's where his kit kind of falls off for the open field, right? Next part's if he's a garrison commander. This skill over here is if he's hitting a rallied army, and like 99% of the time in the open field, that's not what you're doing, okay? And then the expertise skill, well, it does make you a little more prickly, which is kind of cool. So I think CY is going to be absolutely insane, but a couple things need to be true. First of all, I think he's going to be insane when he's garrisoning. And second of all, you, I think, need to have all of the stuff that is going to make healing really, really busted. And if I'm making a prediction now, I mean, I think it is possible that you will ultimately need to pair with SAD even in the garrison, which is kind of weird. Your next best bet, I guess, is Hera. I'll look at that in a second. But if you used SAD in the garrison, we are talking about a 2,000 factor mighty heal that triggers true damage. We've got this skill, which will heal and do true damage and make it so you take less normal damage. We've got 35% health. That seems good. And then this last skill is while you're on the map. So it won't even apply, which is really awkward. Now, the expertise here is going to give you 10% more defense and 20% more normal. I don't know. Like, is SAD really good enough? And so if the answer is no, then for Garrison, we're going to have to look to, like I said, Hera maybe? Now, Hera is going to do AOE damage. Seems good. Shielding combined with healing is a good combo. Okay, very good counterattack and health. Seems good. We've got skill damage. Well, skill damage boost doesn't actually help us here, really. And the reason is that true damage does not get boosted by skill damage. At least that's what I was told when I asked support. There's a chance here to trigger mighty shields. Defense and attack boost here is good. And when you have shields up, you do damage back. And then you take 10% less normal. If you did mixed, you can reduce the normal you're taking by 20%. But then you lose something on SAD over here. What you're going to lose here is 10% normal. So using mixed will get you 20% more normal, but then you lose 10%. So like you net 10% more normal. I mean, I think you probably end up wanting to do full archers, honestly, just because you'll have more stats anyways. And we'll have to get a look at sort of the talent trees and what you can do here. But big picture, I think that yes, this Garrison is going to be important. Yes, in the long term, it's going to be, I think, very definitive for what the meta will be. I think it's going to be a while before that potential is realized. And only after someone goes in, okay, and we look at this codex, and they get these circle formation armaments, right, in full swing, then I think it's going to be insane. Counterattack boost and a chance to improve healing with the, it's just going to be nuts. Okay, guarding light. It's going to be nuts. Boost to healing. Okay. Over here, right? Like damage resistance is insane. And when it's healed, you get a boost to damage dealt. Think about that with a Shajar combo, right? Like that's going to be crazy. And Panacea just 10% boost to all healing, right? Boosting your healing is also boosting your damage. Just like with Arch, how boosting your normal boosts your all damage, right? This is the same thing in a different way. And as a reminder, if we were to switch to Circle, we're talking about just a base 5% increase to the healing that the troop receives. So I think SAD is going to be really crazy. And as a reminder, right, I'm already using that in Canyon. I do think you can see I'm already using SAD. That's going to be good in Canyon. I don't think I'd pair it with CY in Canyon, but I don't know. We got to do the field test, man. At the end of the day, all these theories, I mean, it's good to know the way the commander works that influences what we believe of the world. But I also think you talk all you want, but show me the reports, bro. So in the next couple days, hopefully, in a worst case, I've got open field testing, but we're going to need to do a full gear test because I learned from the last time around, like if you don't full gear test, you miss out on the true damage value, which, you know, comes with its flaws when you're full gear testing. But then also, we got to do rally garrison tests. And I just think the potential will only be realized for this thing down the road. And I will point out one last thing before we wrap the video, which is that I went, this is maybe me being a hoarder, but I went and I saved, right? Like I've got these 8 inscription shards. It took a long time to get them. I don't urgently need anything. I'm just holding it just to see what the heck happens, man. Because, you know, it's crazy how much I hoard this stuff. But now I think if you want to be smart about how you invest in this game and you want to save for the future, this is the real pro tip. If you made it this far in the video, consider subscribing. If you want to be God tier when a new commander shows up, you want to have 8 of these saved up. Okay. You want to be somewhat predictive in what is coming to the game because you want to use your end of KVK inscription for whatever the new formation is. Okay. So you gamble that. then you hold these, and if you're right, you double down on it so that you have 2 legendary inscriptions available for a new formation. By the time the commanders show up, which is months after the formation drops, you are ready to destroy. And that might sound weird, but like, here's the combo formation, right? Like, you could have done this for combo. I could have, I believe, picked from my KVK rewards the combo legendary inscription. I would go on the scroll. I could hoard up for this, and then I could do this little guy, okay, on the next. Like, you could have all this stuff saved up, is the point I'm trying to make. And that, I think, is going to be meta, actually. Like, it's actually just going to be the way to play the game. If you want to rally lead, if you want to be a garrison captain. And more, I've always felt like, hey, yo, life's just better as a fielder, except when you're losing and you wish someone had done the job of being rally or garrison. GG. Enjoy the vid, throw a like on here, consider subscribing. I am generally interested in different mechanics entering into the game. I find myself finding the interactions sometimes a little bit convoluted, but once you understand how they work, it's actually pretty straightforward. And again, when Sad heals herself, only then does she trigger her true damage. She must be the source of the healing from her skills. Or if you're the primary commander, in the case of the testing I showed you, or really the barb hit with CY, he needed to be the primary for his talent that does healing to then also trigger the heal. I do wonder how this works with things like auxiliary skills in certain KVKs. Like, I'm thinking about how we could get even more heal triggers onto this thing. Is there a way to do that? Is there, gosh, do I really want to look at this right now? I thought I was ending the video, but is there actually like a inscription that does healing? I wonder if yes, right? Like, would that trigger the damage? I bet you it would. I'm not aware of one that does healing, but I would believe that it exists. I don't know. I'm going through these really quickly, and I might honestly skip it. There's lots of ones that do damage, but if one of these inscriptions, they scroll through these very, very quickly, did healing, it would be kind of nuts. If that then triggered the true damage. I know there's patronage. Patronage is amazing. Whenever this troop receives healing or a shield, it does 2% extra damage for 3 seconds. Internal cooldown of 5. Right? Like, that seems really good. Bluster is when you're inflicted with a control effect. It's very cool. Does some damage. Requital, that doesn't do healing. Nope, damage to the attacker. I don't think there's a inscription that does a heal, which is honestly kind of surprising. I wouldn't say I'm mad about it. I wouldn't say I think that I was looking for that until now. But I think there's just ones that increase your heal strength. I suppose I could have looked at the rare quality inscriptions, because that's the like more realistic thing you will obtain. Yeah, I guess I'd have to look a little more closely. But this blue one is 4% to healing. Rise Up is 4% damage resistance. I mean, dude, these are good. This is a nice little boost to healing, and more boosts when you... Man. This is going to be good. You want to see the sad testing? Shajar. Cards will be in the end screen here and here. I think I need to redo all that testing, though, with full gear. Don't you think? Unfortunately, I suspect I got to do some full gear tests. And then we'll look at that, and people might be like, oh, actually, this works out. We'll see. Until next time, you have fun mashing your enemies. Take care, everybody.